A shocking discovery sparks a deadly decision.
Not a person, damn it, it's a Borg!
Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to another episode of Treknalysis. So I've been on a bit of a Star Trek moral quandary kick on my channel lately. In the Pale Moonlight, Tuvix, the Unintentional Eddington Month, and a lot of you made suggestions for other episodes I should talk about, exploring whether our favorite captains did the right thing. Well, you guys requested, and you have chosen Hugh.
Hugh. No, wait a minute. That's it. Hugh.
That's right, his name is a pun! The Star Trek The Next Generation episode I Borg is perhaps the first introduction of a Borg individual. Well, unless you count Picard, but he was only locutus for about a week. The Borg, cold, calculating, deadly, operating as a collective with no concept of individuality, finally gets a face and even a name.
Oh, so now you have a Borg named Hugh.
Right, and he's nothing like what I expected.
Hugh, the sole survivor of a crashed Borg ship, nursed back to health by Dr. Crusher, making friends and discovering his individuality, is now being considered to be used as an instrument of destruction to wipe out the Borg. By Captain Picard, of all people.
I would suggest that you unattach yourself from the Borg, Miss LaForge.
This is perhaps one of the best episodes of TNG, and it raises a lot of moral questions. This week on Treknalysis, Resistance is not futile as we take a look at the classic TNG episode, I Borg.
And they will destroy us.
On Star Trek The Next Generation.
But before I go further, thanks for checking out my video. Make sure you like and subscribe for more of my Star Trek, video game, and other miscellaneous content. Keep those hailing frequencies open on the other social media sites, and a big thank you to my channel members for supporting the channel. If you'd like to buy me a cup of tea and support my work, consider joining up on my channel. Be great to have you aboard. It's a pretty typical day on the Enterprise. They're off to chart some new star system and are staring directly at a sun.
It's beautiful.
Don't look at the light!
I can't help it. It's so beautiful.
But they get a distress call from the system and go to investigate. Also pretty typical. Oh, we're in trouble now.
It's a Borg!
So, the distress call was from a crashed Borg ship. They couldn't tell what it was on sight? How many people are flying cubes in space, guys? If it's a geometric shape, watch out! But they still walked up to it and found one survivor, a young Borg in need of medical attention. So naturally, Beverly's all, "Can we keep him, Jean-Luc?"
Captain, we can't leave him here. He won't survive.
I think the captain understands that.
Now, if you recall your Star Trek lore, this is particularly dangerous for the away team to even be here. The Borg aren't exactly friendly and aren't open to negotiation. You know, hell-bent on assimilating every species they encounter, kidnapping Picard and assimilating him, Wolf 359.
Damn it! We just can't leave her here! Oh!
Thanks, Q.
If you can take a little bloody nose, maybe you ought to go back home and crawl under your bed.
So, yeah, Beverly is straight up endangering the Enterprise here. Heck, Picard and Riker even try to talk her out of it. The Borg collect their dead. The transmission was probably a homing signal. Intervening will only bring the Borg here. Worf even suggests, finishing the job and making it look like an accident.
Security measures must be taken before we beam it on board.
And denied. We're bringing the Borg on board.
We are transporting you directly to the detention cell.
I need him in sickbay, Captain.
Oh, honey, you're already putting the ship in enough danger. Now, if you recall from the Season 3 finale, Season 4 premiere, The Best of Both Worlds, Picard was assimilated by the Borg and forced to fight and use his knowledge against the Federation, something he had lasting guilt over because he wasn't strong enough to stop it.
I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't good enough. I should have been able to stop.
So, this situation understandably has him flooded with a whole bunch of emotions. It's almost like he should talk to a counselor or something. Not that one, though.
You were treated violently by the Borg. Kidnapped, assaulted, mutilated.
Counselor.
The galaxy's greatest counselor, ladies and gents! Heck, he didn't even want to talk to her after it happened either.
Look, I'm better.
Now, as much as he says he's weighed the decision carefully, it's impossible for Picard's emotions to not be involved here because of his past experience with the Borg, and he shuts down the conversation pretty quickly. Listen, I think he should talk about it, but I don't think Counselor Obvious is up to the task. Where's Counselor Robert with a mud fight when you need him?
I still don't like you, Jean-Luc.
Well, if at any point you want to talk more.
I would literally discuss this with a Ferengi bartender over you, thank you. With the Borg on board, the episode cuts to the ethical dilemma pretty quickly, within the first 10 minutes. Since the Borg's implants need to be replaced, Picard proposes the idea of programming an invasive program into them to ultimately shut down the entire Borg collective. And that's it, they would pretty much be done.
Make it sound as if it's a disease.
If all goes well, the terminal one.
Oh shit. That's pretty dark for Picard. I mean, I'd expect this out of the Romulans, the Cardassians, Section 31, Worf, but not the guy that refused to get a planet of druggies off their fix because it violated the Prime Directive.
We're talking about annihilating an entire race.
Which under most circumstances would be unconscionable. But as I see it, the Borg leave us with little choice.
This is, of course, assuming the Borg don't have antivirus or something. I feel like that should be considered. Weirdly enough, though, Beverly seems to be the only one who has a problem with this plan. I mean, it does make sense for the character. She's a doctor, and she's coming at it from a medical perspective. She sees the Borg as her patient who needs her help, and they're talking about using him as a weapon. There's obvious ethical issues involved. It's just kind of weird that no one else has similar qualms about it. I guess everyone in that room is alright with completely wiping out a civilization, which is a little unnerving when you think about it. That being said, this scene does present both sides of the issue pretty well without condemning either side, even with it being so lopsided. Picard, Riker, and, even Troy point out that they're basically at war with the Borg, though Beverly points out that there hasn't been a formal declaration. Although if they keep attacking you and tried to conquer Earth at one point, I mean, really, Beverly? But there are rules in war. You can't just start attacking civilians.
There are no civilians among the Borg.
Well, he does have a point. You don't attack civilians because they're not a threat, but arguably, every Borg is a threat controlled by the collective, capable of assimilating and or killing you. I do honestly think that if it was any other species, this discussion wouldn't even be happening. Picard would never have even suggested the plan. But because the Borg can't be negotiated with, and they're so determined to destroy or assimilate them all, Picard puts his foot down as a matter of survival. They're going through with the plan. And yeah, his emotions are almost certainly involved here, but you can see where he's coming from. Either that or he's secretly on a revenge quest. I mean, either one is possible.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
But if you think Picard's being too hard here, Guinan thinks he's being too soft. Guinan, the normally calm, sage bartender, dishing out wise advice with her hundreds of years of life experience, stabs Picard with a fencing foil to prove her point. Chokes on her. That's just Tuesday to him.
A certain giddy warmth. In fact, I do actually remember that I laughed out loud.
Now, Guinan's people were nearly wiped out by the Borg, so this hits pretty close to home for her. And she can't understand why Picard would even let the Borg on board. Picard explains it was an errand of mercy, and Guinan shows exactly what she thinks of that.
You all right?
You felt sorry for me. Look what it got you.
Damn! Brilliantly executed scene. I mean, I've seen fencing used as just window dressing in this show, but it's actually here for a reason, and it perfectly illustrated Guinan's point. Meanwhile, let's check in on our Borg, shall we?
He's alone. For the first time, he's being forced to cope with his environment without the resources of the collective.
If I didn't know better, I'd think he was scared.
The Borg might be separated from the collective, but he's still reciting all the big Borg slogans.
We are Borg. You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
He also refers to himself as we, because there's no I in we, and reveals that his designation is third of 5, because he was the third of a crew of 5. And between Beverly rescuing him and Geordi giving him Borg food, this is probably the first time he's encountered anything close to kindness.
Why do you do this?
I'm just a nice guy at heart.
Yeah, try telling that to Christy or Leah.
I just don't feel that way about you.
Yeah.
That it's all about a fantasy plaything.
It's not like that.
So Beverly's been roped into helping Geordi as he develops the virus, and she's kind of passive-aggressive about the whole thing. She really doesn't want to be here.
When he cooperates, he gets fed. If not,
Like a rat in a cage.
Yeah, but don't forget, Beverly, this is kinda your fault. Look, I acknowledge that her misgivings are completely justified, but things would have been a hell of a lot easier if they immediately left after seeing a f***ing Borg cube. Beverly and Geordi have to ask the Borg a few questions that would ultimately be used to destroy his civilization, but even though he's still very much insisting that they'll be assimilated, he's inquisitive about his human hosts. Why do they give him food? What does a doctor do? Why are they helping him? And finally, what are their designations? You know, names.
Do I have a name?
do you want one?
Oh no, they're gonna give him a name! First you bring him home, you give him a name, next thing you know, the captain's losing his spot on the couch.
In spite of efforts to turn it into some kind of pet.
That's what I'm saying!
You named the Borg?
Well, it was easier having something to call him.
Let's be real though, they do kind of treat him like a lost puppy throughout this episode.
You.
No, wait a minute. That's it. Hugh.
Again, his name is a pun! Hey Hugh, can you keep an eye on this?
Here.
Thanks.
And of course, Hugh passes his test with flying colors. But then, things get a little uncomfortable.
When you have completed these tests, what will be done with us?
We'll send you home.
Well, that's one way of putting it. Well, either Beverly's starting to rub off on Geordi, or it's because Hugh was innocent. But Geordi's beginning to question the plan. He's gotten to know Hugh and sees him more like a lost kid rather than a soulless drone bent on destroying his way of life. He's starting to feel a little funny about using him to destroy the Borg, which again is thoroughly understandable. However, he's telling all this to Guinan, who does have an axe to grind with the Borg. She knows exactly what they're capable of, and she's disturbed by Geordi's second thoughts.
And they will not do any of the soul searching that you are apparently doing right now.
This is a different side of Guinan than we're used to, but it's handled in a way that it doesn't feel like a different character. If anything, it makes her more three-dimensional. This is personal for her, and she's legitimately angry. So then Geordi's like, well, you go talk to him then. You say no to that face!
You don't look so tough.
And this is where you see the shift in Guinan. At first she addresses Hugh with scorn, but then it shifts to sadness when she tells him about what happened to her people. How they resisted the Borg, and as a result, there are very few of them left scattered throughout the galaxy without a home.
What you are saying is that you are lonely. You have no others. You have no home. We are also lonely.
In fact, Hugh is struggling with loneliness himself. He genuinely can't understand why no one on the Enterprise wants to be assimilated. After all, he's used to hearing thousands of voices in his mind, and Now that everything's quiet, he feels lonely. But Geordi explains how important individuality is to everyone on board the Enterprise in, honestly, one of his best speeches.
I am Geordi. I choose what I want to do with my life. I make decisions for myself. For somebody like me, losing that sense of individuality is almost worse than dying.
And yes, Geordi too experiences loneliness. I mean, look at his dating life. But that's why he has friends, so he doesn't feel quite as alone.
Like Geordi. And Hugh.
Oh! Geordi finally voices his second thoughts to Picard after presenting the finished virus. Basically, they plan to make the Borg malfunction with a shape that doesn't exist. And Picard basically tells him, yeah, don't get attached, we're using the virus anyways.
I would suggest that you unattach yourself from the Borg, Miss LaForge.
But Geordi isn't the only one with doubts, as Guinan visits Picard while he's wearing a sexy robe while drinking a relaxing beverage. After talking to Hugh, she needs to be certain that he knows he's doing the right thing. Except that Picard doesn't have a problem with the plan because he never actually talked to Hugh.
If you're going to use this person...
It's not a person, damn it, it's a Borg!
Now, this outburst is interesting for the normally stoic Picard. He always had a strong sense of morality, fighting for everyone's rights and freedoms, even respecting certain cultures that might offend Federation sensibilities. But when it comes to the Borg, he does a 180 after what they did to him, and it's something that never really goes away. It's one of the few things in TNG that has lasting consequences. He, justifiably mind you, has deep-seated anger towards the Borg, and it's probably something that he needs to talk about. Just not with Deanna.
Because it's been given a name by a member of my crew, doesn't mean it's not a Borg. Because it's young doesn't mean that it's innocent.
While Guinan is willing to leave it at that, she warns Picard that if he doesn't talk to Hugh at least once, he might have a hard time living with that in the long run.
I can live with it.
So now it's time for Hugh to meet one of the Borg's biggest celebrities.
Locutus.
I am Locutus of Borg. You are Borg.
Picard puts Hugh to the test, assuming the identity of Locutus to see how he reacts. And surprisingly enough, Hugh argues with him and rejects Borg ideology. He identifies as Hugh. Resistance is not futile. Geordi would rather die than be assimilated. But all of that is nothing compared to this bombshell.
You are Borg. You will assist us.
I will not.
Yep, Hugh started referring to himself as I. He's no longer third of five, but an individual.
But you are Borg.
No. I am Hugh.
And finally, Picard comes to the conclusion that he can't justify using a fully realized individual as a means of destruction.
To use him in this manner, we be no better than the enemy that we seek to destroy.
Well, good, because you wouldn't want to get this transmission.
You know, in some ways, you're even worse than the Borg.
So, now what do? Well, they could return Hugh to the crash site and wait for the Borg to pick him up, and then erase his hard-earned individuality. Or his individuality could affect the entire Borg collective.
Perhaps that's the most pernicious program of all.
That just sounds like your original plan, but with extra steps. Or instead of a virus, you're just giving the Borg spyware. Or a terrible two-part sequel. But Beverly raises another question that they haven't considered yet. What if he doesn't want to go back? For perhaps the first time, Hugh is given a choice. He can go back to the collective, or he can stay here on the Enterprise. Which absolutely blows his mind.
You just blew my mind.
No Borg leaves the collective.
Hugh? You're looking at one! And later on, you have 7 of 9, the Borg kids. Heck, I think a good chunk of Voyager's senior officers were assimilated and unassimilated at one point. But Hugh, finally given a choice, one the Enterprise is willing to back up, makes the selfless decision to return to the collective to protect his new friend.
I would choose to stay with Geordi. but it is too dangerous.
Sorry, Hugh. Geordi's only allowed to have one best friend. The Borg cube is on its way, and it's time to drop Hugh off by the crash site so he can be picked up. Geordi decides to go with him for the final farewell, and the Borg should ignore him because they only assimilate civilizations and not individuals. Try telling that to Seven of Nine and her parents.
I do not want to forget that I am Hugh.
It just tears your heart out, man!
I will try to remember you.
And with that, the Borg arrive to collect Hugh. But just before he leaves, he gives one final glance at his friend Geordi, a lingering sign of his individuality. And that's I Borg, one of the most memorable episodes of TNG and one of the best Borg episodes. It gives the individuals assimilated by the Borg humanity and the hope that they can one day be freed from the collective, something we would later see with Seven of Nine. And yes, Picard was also unassimilated a few seasons earlier, but he was only a Borg for about a week. But the main part of the episode is the moral dilemma. Should Hugh be used as a weapon against the Borg? And I like how the episode handles both sides. Obviously, you're meant to side with Beverly and later Geordi. Hugh's an individual, and using him this way is wrong. But it doesn't condemn Picard's or Guinan's side either, because it's ultimately based on survival. Both sides have emotional and logical components to them, so neither side is entirely black or white. Heck, Picard's final decision does ultimately come back to bite him later on, so there were consequences there as well.
You could have taken the opportunity to rid the Federation of a mortal enemy, one that has killed tens of thousands of innocent people and which may kill even more.
But in my opinion, I think Picard ultimately made the right call in that situation. While the Borg are a threat, the Federation wasn't exactly struggling for survival like in the Dominion War that could justify some shady actions. Again, see In the Pale Moonlight. The Borg virus would have been an offensive maneuver, which carries a lot more ethical issues than if it was strictly defensive. Picard ultimately chose to stick to his principles, and that's why I like the character so much. Sure, it wasn't without struggle because of his personal trauma with the Borg. You can understand why he would take drastic measures to eliminate a deadly enemy. But coming face to face with Hugh and seeing him become an individual, heck, even seeing that there's hope for unassimilation, he recognizes that the ends don't justify the means, at least in this situation. To him, if they're gonna defeat the Borg, they're gonna do it with their principles intact.
Every one of the Borg being given the opportunity to experience the feeling of singularity.
So what did you think about I Borg? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think of Picard's plan and his ultimate decision? Do you think he should have gone through with it, or did he ultimately make the right call? And what are some of your favorite moral quandaries in Star Trek? Please leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Treknalysis. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends. Until next time,
I am Hugh.